Now we need to add more enemies to make the game more difficult. A small army of beetles scurry around the inside of the maze, and if you bump into one, the game ends. So, we're going to make the beetles move automatically. So we need to create a sequence or an algorithm for each beetle to move forward until it hits a wall, and then stop and turn around and move again. So we need to add another sprite. So we'll go down to sprites, and I'm going to look up beetles. There's my beetle. So now I have my beetle from the library. Here is the code for the beetle. It's going to set the beetle's size, direction, and it uses a forever loop to move the beetle and an if-then block to make it stop and turn and hit the wall. So we will start with our usual event. We always need an event. When is something happening? Then we want to set the size of the beetle to smaller. So we are going to set the size of the beetle to 30%. Then we want the beetle to go to a certain location. We may need to choose a different coordinates depending on where it appears. So we're going to do go, and we are going to take it to 2 different coordinates. We want it to go to -130, x, and 80, y. Not 8, but 80. Then we want it to point in the direction. So it's going left and right. So remember, this is going to make it point in the direction to right. So I'm just going to hit, see, there's my beetle. Now, I am at a wall, so I might have to change my coordinate. Now I want him to move, my X is okay, but I need to move him a little further down for the Y. Oops, I have 0, I'm supposed to have 80. Let's try that again. Okay, so he's right on a wall now, so I don't want him to start right on a wall. So I'm going to move him down. Let's try 70 and see where he ends up. So this is what I'm saying. You may have to play with the numbers a little bit so he's not right on a wall. There we go. So now, forever, we want him to be moving. So I will go to my controls, and I will go to forever. Now, he's constantly going to be moving 5 steps at a time. That's great. So we'll have him move 5 steps at a time. See how he went and ran across my screen? But now we need to make it so if he touches the maze, what happens? So we need to go back to our control, and you should be seeing this pattern about moving and then the if-then. So if-then, what? If it is touching the what? This time we want it for touching the maze, any part of the maze. So if it touches a maze, what do we want it to do? We want it to stop where it's going, just like we did before. So we are going to have it move -5 steps, just like we did with our mouse if it hits the wall. And this time, we're also going to have it turn around so it goes in the other direction, and we're going to have it turn 90 degrees. That means it'll turn in the opposite direction. So let's give it a try. See? He's hitting the wall. I'm not touching any arrow keys. Moving in the opposite direction. Excellent. The way we have the code set up, our little beetles will only turn to the right, which means they're going to end up going in a loops. So we need to add some more to our code so they randomly move to the left. So what we're going to do is we need another if-then block. But this time we need actually an if-else. So what we're going to do is go into control and pick the if-then-else block. So it's saying if this is happening, okay, but if something else is happening, well, let's choose something else. So this is where it gets a little tricky. We're going to pick a random number. So I'm under operators, I'm pulling out the pick random from 1, and I'm going to make it to 2. So It's basically saying we're picking, oops, just deleted that, didn't mean that, sorry. Pick a random number from 1 to 2, okay? What I want is in my if-then statement, we need an equals. So this is, I know, looks weird, but you're looking, but if, so this is basically saying, if the random number that is picked from 1 to 2 is equal to 1, then what we're going to do is we're going to turn by 90 degrees. So this is how we're changing the randomness of what direction your beetle is going to turn in. So we're saying, okay, it's just going to pick a random number, and if it's 1, it's going to turn that way by 90 degrees. Sorry, I keep hitting delete. Didn't mean that. I have to make sure I'm just inside and not deleting the whole block, which I keep deleting the whole block. Sorry about that. There we go. 90 degrees. If it's anything else than 1, then we're going to have it turn the other way by 90 degrees. Now, what this is going to replace, though, is if your beetle is touching the maze, we're going to have it move -5 steps. And instead of always turning 90 degrees, we're going to take the turn 90 degrees out and replace it with the if else. So it's basically saying if your beetle's touching the maze, it's going to move -5, and then it's going to pick a random way of turning. So when we do play and turn this, now you see your beetle sometimes turns left and sometimes turns right. And that makes the game more interesting. The one thing you do want to do is make sure that the beetle and your mouse can pass each other. So I'm going to try to make my mouse move near the beetle and see if they can pass each other. Yes. So just check your sizes.